Well, welcome everybody to a quick recap of what's happening in the solar PV industry compiled by the American Solar Energy Society. I'm Jay Warmke with SolarPVTraining.com, and this is the news from the solar industry for the week of April 14th. Well, it's not surprising that politics plays a role in, well, apparently politics. A recent report shows that since the IRA, the Inflation Reduction Act, was passed in 2022, about $114 billion has been allocated to support the introduction of clean manufacturing facilities. Well, it turns out about half of this, $53.6 billion, has been allocated within states that are going to play a key role in the upcoming presidential election. These swing states include Arizona, Georgia, Michigan, Nevada, North Carolina, and Pennsylvania. Now, most of this funding will go towards electric vehicle manufacturing, battery manufacturing, as well as wind and solar components. The last two coal power plants operating in New England are now scheduled to be shut down. Both of these are located in New Hampshire, and both are operated by Granite Shore Power. The first will be shut down in 2025. The second one will be shut down in 2028. Now, this makes New Hampshire the 16th state that will be actually coal power plant free from this point forward, and that's a dramatic change since about 2010. Well, in 2010, coal accounted for 44% of all of the nation's electric generation. By 2019, 289 plants had closed. That's about 40% of the generating capacity from coal. By 2023, coal was only accounting for about 17% of the nation's electric grid. Now, an additional 173 coal power plants are scheduled to be closed by 2030, which will bring coal's share of electric generation down below 10%. Clean energy now accounts for about 5% of all of the nation's private investment in durable goods, in structures, and in equipment purchases, according to a recent report by Clean Investment Monitor organization. Electric vehicles lead the way in this investment, followed by wind and solar capital improvements, power plants, things of that nature, as well as deployment of new technologies such as carbon capture, as well as green building techniques. And in related news, MIT, the Massachusetts Institute of Technology, has reported that the rate of emission reductions, carbon emission reductions, has actually doubled since the passage of the IRA. That's the good news. The bad news is, according to the report, that in order to meet the climate goals of 2030 and to get the U.S. to net zero carbon emissions by 2050, these emission rate declines have to actually triple. And queues for connecting generating facilities to the grid, known as interconnection, well, they were already long, but now they've actually increased dramatically by about 30% in 2023. Now, according to a study by Lawrence Berkeley Labs, the queues have grown eightfold over the past decade. In 2010, the amount that were waiting to be connected, planned generating facilities waiting to be connected, represented about half of the installed base. In other words, the grid had 972 gigawatts of generating capacity, and there were 462 gigawatts of power plants waiting to be constructed. By 2023, this waiting list had ballooned to more than double of the existing grid. In 2023, the grid had a generating capacity of about 1,279 gigawatts, and there were 2,598 gigawatts of power plants waiting for approval to be built. In 2023, FERC, the Federal Energy Regulatory Commission, issued new reforms for interconnections, but they've not taken effect yet. The average delay for getting your grid approval for connecting to the grid is now about 5 years. And the state of Maryland is the first state to mandate that utilities allow for vehicle-to-grid bidirectional electric vehicle charging. Now, what this will do is allow vehicles not only to charge from the grid, but then the battery capacity within the vehicle can be used to go onto the grid to power your home, or aggregated, they can become a virtual power plant. And this is a new technology that holds a lot of promise for the grid. The act is called DRIVE. It's one of those torturous acronyms that stands for Distributed Renewable Integration and Vehicle Electrification. Well, it was passed this past week, and the legislation says that the Public Service Commission has to have these rules in place by May of 2025. And that is the news from the solar industry for this week. We'll see you next week.